Catastrophic. That's the word being used by the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center. You're seeing that everywhere, and I do believe that we are in for some real destruction, not just across Florida and Georgia, but north into the Appalachians, parts of the Carolinas, Tennessee, Kentucky, maybe even too. So we're going to talk about that in this video today. We're going to look at the wind field updates. These are some of the newest numbers coming in. Gusts over 80 maybe into the southern Appalachians. So pretty wild to see that. Thanks for coming by, guys. My name is Travis Roberts. If you're new to the channel here, let's back this up. I'm a former TV chief meteorologist doing this weather analysis here. Once you're a meteorologist, you're always a meteorologist, and you hate to see these types of events. Today, the Florida coast is getting battered, the west coast of Florida too. And look, on the east coast as well, we're getting that influence here of that really large wind field as Helene starts to interact with the upper low to the north. It's going to really widen out. But this thing's expected to be a Cat 4 as it moves ashore here somewhere in the Big Bend. Do not get caught up in the exact location of this, because as this thing moves north, it's going to continue to buzzsaw through the south. So by the time we get into early tomorrow morning, that we early Friday morning, the center of circulation, here's Macon, expected to be just, I would say, very close to Macon. And on the east side of this is where the strongest winds will be. We're also going to get some strong onshore flow here across the Carolinas, also into the Georgia coast. That's going to cause maybe some coastal flooding, some big waves, some storm surge here too. And then we didn't even talk about the storm surge in Florida that could exceed 15 to 20 feet in some areas. So if you have an emergency declaration, if you have an evacuation order, get out. And another place that I am highly concerned about, it's the mountains here in the North and South Carolina. Upslope flow here, perpendicular to the mountains. That's going to cause devastating rains that will cause flooding that could induce landslides, and we could see debris flows. This is a situation where you could see homes completely washed away if this in fact plays out the way it is looking here. All right, now we're moving into Friday. We've still got the rain showers going still here. We're just following the storm here with this particular model, but let's sort of change things up just a little bit and look at the upper level pattern. There's your upper low spinning back to the west. That's also is what's going to hook what's going to be left of our tropical low into it, and it's going to really just get absorbed and then lose its tropical characteristics. Another look at the surface map, and then we'll get into the wind conditions. This thing, again, expected to be a Category 4 once it moves ashore, and it will likely hold hurricane status once it moves inland because it's going to move so fast because of this upper low back to the west. That's what's different. So you're going to move from here to here in 24 hours. That forward speed will allow the system to not weaken as fast. So if it was moving slower, it's just going to get tore apart by the friction. So that means stronger winds, I think, here into the Carolinas, Tennessee, and Kentucky, maybe even West Virginia, and some of those winds could be damaging. Let's look at the winds. Speaking of that, that's what a lot of folks are worried about. Yes, the storm surge, the flooding, that is huge. Tornadoes are going to be everywhere today and on Friday, especially on the east side of this circulation. This is a look at the hour-by-hour wind gust potential. Here comes the storm ashore. Notice that we're seeing gusts even on the east coast of Florida in the mid 60s, right? So, and then your hurricane force gust in this area, even down into parts of Florida. And then look how this wind field just expands out as we head into now early Friday morning. So destructive winds here from Macon east all the way to the coast here of Georgia. And now we're picking the winds up here across southern parts of South Carolina. Up around Atlanta, it looks like you may end up with a bit of a northerly breeze. The strongest winds are clearly going to be on the east side of this storm, wherever it is. Also, these feeder bands coming in like this, your circulation doing this. That wind shear in the lower levels is going to be enough that you're going to get a quick spin up of tornadoes. So that is a problem, not just for Georgia, South Carolina, but also into North Carolina. There's your wind gust heading into Friday morning around sunrise. So now this would be the worst here for the upstate of South Carolina, central South Carolina, also eastern Georgia, down here into Florida and southern Georgia. The storm now is to your north. Let's time things out a little bit further to the north. Now we're looking into North Georgia, also North Carolina and Tennessee, and into the southern Appalachians. Remember, you've got some really high terrain here. You've got Mount Mitchell down here, Asheville up to Boone, Blowing Rock, Mount Rogers into parts of southern Virginia. This is some of the highest terrain here along the Blue Ridge Range. And, you know, it's going to be high enough that those winds will be likely tapped into. So winds could gust 80. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a 90 mile per hour gust somewhere here, especially along the highest ridges. You know, you look east over towards Charlotte, the worst here would be clearly Friday morning. Gusts could be near 70, at least in the 60s here. And then that will start to move out as we head into the afternoon. Now look at these numbers here into the southern Appalachians of Tennessee, North Carolina, even parts of Southwest Virginia heading into Friday morning. That's when that strong core of winds will be here. Again, look on the west side, not nearly as strong with that circulation like this, and then your upper low back here. We're starting to see this get absorbed. Strong onshore flow here. Tornadoes will be more likely heading into Friday across North and South Carolina, maybe even as far north as Virginia, depending on how these feeder bands set up. And then I don't know if you see this or not, but we're showing an 80 mile an hour, almost an 80 mile an hour gust here, upper 60s and 70 gusts here. I don't know that we see that, but here's the thing too, another thing to consider. This is sort of a valley area, I guess, with your bigger ridges here. So sometimes in these areas, especially into East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, you get that downsloping flow down toward Knoxville. So we could actually get some downsloping winds that could gust higher than maybe we would normally see just because of the way the flow's going in. And then look, everything now pushing to the north as we head into Friday afternoon. So now the strongest gusts move into places like Cincinnati, Lexington, Louisville, up into West Virginia, up toward Charleston, over to Huntington, and then weakening as it moves north. So now we're moving up into Indiana and Ohio. Again, wind here, while it's going to be decent, right? You're talking about winds that will gust 50, maybe even close to 60 in some areas, but your circulation here as we head into late Friday night, it's moving so fast. I mean, right, we take this thing ashore and put it into West Kentucky after it moves up into Georgia, the Appalachians, and then here. So still some breezy condition. And again, these are not sustained winds. These are wind gusts. And then everything kind of starts to calm down. So I hope that helps. That's a really long explanation there and looking at the wind. Let's talk about the rain, though. And I apologize. Some folks were saying, look, these videos are really long. There's a lot going on, and I hope you can appreciate and understand that, normally these videos are only 5 to 7 minutes, but these are a little longer because I think it's such an impactful event. It's worth taking the time. All right, Southern Appalachians here. Again, some areas are going to see a foot of rain or more. We've already seen multiple flood warnings in these areas, flash flood warnings. And if you throw another 10 to 12 inches of rain on top of what we've seen in these areas, it's going to be devastating. Notice here in the parts of East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, at least on the west side of the mountains, a bit of a rain shadow effect. And I think that could happen here too, as you get that downsloping flow, a little bit of drying and warming of the air as it compresses. So maybe not as much rain, but flooding rains here still across Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and in the upslope areas of Virginia. And we talked about the tornado risk. This is going to be a big deal. All right, parts of Georgia, South Carolina, Florida for today, a high tornado risk, especially with those feeder bands. Once they start to set up, watch those cells. They could rotate. And here's the thing, they'll spin up so quick. It's not like you're going to have a lot of warning with them. So just have a way to get alerts and advisories to your phone. And this is the outlook heading into Friday. So everything now shifting to the north as our center of circulation goes here. Your feeder bands coming in like this. That, again, is where you would see your tornadic cells start to develop. Let's look at the future radar. This is a wider view of the east. We do have some showers here across the northeast. Nothing like what we're seeing here across the central Appalachians into the Tennessee Valley and the south. Here comes Helene. That's really not hard to see here across the Big Bend of Florida. I do not like this. It has been raining here now in some areas for quite a while, and it's been really coming down. And now we're throwing a tropical storm into that mix. So big time rains. And look, we're going to get a lot of rain back here too. Maybe not as heavy as the Appalachians, but still quite a bit of rain for parts of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And look how that rain pushes all the way back into Arkansas and Missouri. Clearly not as heavy, but still pretty wild to see that. And then this all does start to weaken and dissipate some as we head into Saturday. Still some heavy downpours possible. This is going to be a tropical air mass too, so that rain could be heavy at times. Across the west, we are watching a system move in now, and we have another one that's going to bring some more rain and snow as we head toward Friday and Saturday. But the big story continues to be Helene. All right, that's all I got, guys. See ya.